Okay. Now I do not know how to. Oh, okay. So we'll go over here to edit, add a destination. Yeah, if I have his YouTube channel. Let's see here. Yeah, I can't do it. He has to do it from his end. I'm just going to tell him to come in. I don't know how to do all that in the middle of a live stream, and I got it. I am now on my phone as well. Okay, so you can't come up. I'll drop the link down here. Okay. And then once that show goes live, it'll come over. Give me just a second, Roger, and I'll kind of bring you in here. But anyhow, the cool thing about Roger is he spent 35 years of his life working in corrections. So he was one of these guys that was in that world. And that we were talking the other night, like Mars' son's in prison in Washington State. My son got taken out of my home when he was 13, almost 14, and hadn't been back since. And the main question that I have for anybody or the prison system or somebody that worked at, they like to call it a rehabilitative service. But it doesn't seem that way to me. So what we're doing is we want to hear what Roger has to say. He's had inside knowledge. He's been the one that spoke to the warden. What is their agenda when somebody comes in and they're locked up? So without further ado, here's Roger, 35. You guys know him. He's the Island Boy, the OG, good buddy of mine. And we'll have him talk on the issue since he's the one that has the experience. Hey. What's up, Mr. Roger? How you doing, buddy? I want to show my honesty and clarity. It's not 35 years. I've probably been doing it closer to 18 to 20 years. I've been in law enforcement my entire life in some degree. Some of it was at the parish jail. Some of it was doing private security. So it's a bundle of 90% of my life was behind a badge in the law enforcement industry. But I didn't want to misspeak on anything that it wasn't 35 years of the prison system. But anything over 5 years in a prison is legitimate. But the mental health lifespan for that line of work ain't but 15 years. That because the old retirement was 20 years, they retired you out because you was physically, mentally unstable and burnt out at that point. So as a free person doing 15 years, imagine what that person's doing 30 years, what they're like. And I am not going to bash either side of it. As per se, the system failed people. People can fail people, but I'm not an advocate of saying that the system is out there to rehabilitate. The system is a failed structure. The system I've been with kids. I've dealt with juveniles in the juvenile detention center. The system does not make money on taking people, fixing them, and sending them back out in the public. On the hopes that more broken people get in there and they fix them and send them back out in public. You're eventually going to have a public full of fixed people that no longer need the prison system. So anytime the human mind gets in a position where they become a financial gatekeeper, there's opportunity for corruption. So when you've got somebody that says, okay, if I send $50,000 to the teachers, that's going to educate kids. If I send $50,000 to the prison system,
That's going to rehabilitate people, get programs. Hey, I need y'all to X-nay on that. And that's going to rehabilitate people. And then the long-term effect is we're going to lose the resources because there's not going to be any more people locked up.
Right.
At that point, I think the system breaks down. Now, do I think it helps that these young kids are out there only respecting there's no men at the house, there's no men in the home. Society is saying women can do it on their own. Society is saying two women can raise a kid, two men can raise a kid. And granted, that may be so. They may can do that. But when you break down structure, you're failing the child at that point. Now, don't get me wrong, there's good kids that be in bad situations due to finances or such as that. They don't have good representation. The courts eat them up. Now, I'm gonna get to the point about what the prison does, but you can't jump over a fence into the football field without knowing how to get there. When it gets to the hands of the correction officer, it's already a mess, and if it's not cleaned up, then it falls on the lap of well, then the correction officers didn't do their job. By the time that person, and I've dealt with the females, the males, and the kids, so I'm speaking on a broad board. By the time it gets to us, they're so broken, nothing we're going to do is going to fix them. When the public eye gets in the way of rehabilitation somebody, there's a problem. Now, when I say the public eye, meaning social media, people trying to tell somebody else how to do their job without knowing what goes into it. When correctional officers are being told how to handle an offender, whether it's verbally, whether it's socially, whether it's anything else, they wasn't in that person's life when they were out there doing their crime. And now that they're captive, you want to tell me how to handle this person. Undisciplined person, an unbelt friendly person, a person that's never had any form of authority given to them. And when they did, y'all were out there enabling them to buck the system or don't go and tell nothing. If you see something on the street, don't say nothing. So society created that, and now we have to tell it to get up in the morning and go to work. We have to tell it to get up and take medication. We have to tell it to get up and go work in the fields. And so the stack is the deck is stacked against us. So we already got a problem that we're faced with. Now, the kids that I work with, I was hard on. There was a lot of them that I was firm with. Some of them I dealt with verbally to keep from putting my hands on them because that's a whole legal problem in itself. But when you handle them verbally and you chastise them, and then when you punish them by not letting them do what they want to do, uh, you tend to gain their respect. That's something they're not used to. So I've had kids tell me, "Man, I wish you was in my life, bro. I wouldn't be locked up right now, man." Or I'm taking my mama's charge, or I was in the car with my dad and his buddies, and I told him the gun was mine. I wish I'd have stood up for myself. I wish somebody would have put a belt on me. I wouldn't be here where I'm at now. And then I run across kids that come from a good, wholesome family who just uh were given that entitlement attitude, so they thought they were above authority, get caught up in some drama, and then go to prison. And then once you go to jail, I think you fall in a quicksand. You know, you go to the parish jail. Oh, this ain't nothing. I can do this. You get put on some probation, and then out of the probation, you think, oh, I did that. That ain't nothing. Then you go into the actual prison, which is a huge difference between prison and parish jail. You don't go home in
That
prison.
brings a question I have for you because a big question I hear a lot of people ask and especially for me, because being a parent of a child that went into the system and things like that. What is, so you worked with kids, you worked with women, you worked with adults, but
Yes.
so when you see these kids come in, the word is recidivism, right? Returning to prison.
Yes.
What would you say the actual success rate is for somebody to rejoin society and to actually function in society after prison or after any phase of it?
Oh man. This
In your experience, I mean, like your eyes on.
I have literally let's deal with small numbers. If I let's say I've seen 20 juveniles. I've seen 20 juveniles that were in the facility. 17 of them going to prison. You know, at least 17 of them will be career criminals. Not necessarily, now let me rephrase that. Will be career institutionalized, not career criminals. I didn't mean to say career criminals, but will spend 90% of their life behind bars. When they are juveniles, and I'm saying juveniles between the ages of 9 and 21. I've seen 9-year-olds cut grass for me, work harder than grown men. 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds. If I've seen 20 of those, and then I come back 20 years later, 17 of them 20 is going to be in prison. The juvenile detention center does not give them what they need, which is strictness, which is punishment for their actions. They don't hold them accountable. They have what they call the red phones, where they've got. Hold on 1 second. Y'all have got to take their traffic in there. Yes. Look. Little man. Hang on one. Yeah, thank you. This right here. You talk. Look, no, you daddy me one more time. You daddy me one more time, and we're gonna have a problem. This happened to be something that I'm gonna have to address. You got to live with it. You in a house where this goes on. No. There is. Yes.
No, he's an absolute.
But watch. There is no speaking over me when this is. He is talking to these people that are putting this on hold because of some ignorant bullshit, and you're supposed to be grown. There is no telling me anything when I say shut the fuck up. Well, then don't share it with me then, because right now, because you're trying to make this not sound what it is, because you're not interested in it.
Getting into that part of it.
Now, I am so sorry, y'all. I apologize. But these are grown kids, though, you know. But like I was saying, the system is so broke down that the mental health workers that are there enable them. They're crutched. They're, oh my goodness, they're so tenderhearted. Now, I'm not saying to be a correctional officer or in that line of work, you got to be a hard ass. That's not what I'm saying. But you're looking at kids who have had no strong role models. And then you're supposed to be that role model for them, you know? But like I said, if I seen 20 children, 20 years later, 17 of them would still be in jail, it will be because the system does not work on that child getting out. It teaches them how to live at the next level of their life, which is being incarcerated. And
it's so crazy because my son, after, like I said, 4.5 years, he's on 5 years. He gets out on the 21st, which is he gets out and he goes to my mom. And in September he turns 18, and then he's going back to Florida with his mom, where the problem started, in my opinion. The reason I wanted to talk to you about this is because there's a huge problem in our society today with our youth. And I wanted to hear you say that because you worked in a system it's called a rehabilitative system. I know it's not, but that's what they call it.
And they call it because that's what brings in investments. That's what brings in money. They call it that because calling it a failed detention center don't bring in revenue. You know, when politicians have to go and rally and get money and pull for the state, or when you're running for election, you know, I'm that rehabilitator. I'm that rehabilitator. If you go back and watch the movie Shawshank Redemption, that warden was taking inmates and doing contracted labor and getting money under the table. Now that that technically is not happening, but technically it can be happening at the same time. Uh, you know, it's
Question, because you worked in several different
levels of the
Louisiana. Jason, it's not an open panel tonight, but I'm sorry. I'm on a tight schedule tonight. Roger's busy. I'm busy. We're doing this to introduce him. Nothing against you, bud, but some other night you can come up.
I would love to. I would love to you know, answer questions certain nights. And one thing me and you was talking about, as you introduce the different levels of the show, the Saturday night shows, I'm sure you're going to highlight on. We're going to have those scripted out. We're going to hit a few minutes of time. If anybody wants to hear more of something that we've spoke about, we would love to designate a certain night where we can answer all of the questions. So if we shoot through something, don't feel y'all left out. Contact us, DM us, reach out to us. Hey man, y'all hit a subject, but y'all didn't highlight on it. I either agree, disagree, or I just want to know more about it. We would designate a whole night to that. Bring your research. We'll bring our research because even though I spent a long time in the prison system, I am no expert. That prison is changing every day, every day, every day.
I think you are in a sense is because it changes every day, but just like everything else, when it comes from politics, when it comes to sports, when it comes to the mainstream media, everybody in the chats always has an opinion of how they think it is
and how it really is.
And I'm the type of guy that's like, wait a minute, you guys never worked a day in the prison system, yet you have an opinion on how it operates. So I'm bringing you in because, but my question to you is this: the big doubles. What's up, Robbie? How you doing, man? The big doubles, the big corruptive part of it all to me was when I started reading on the prison systems, and they majority of the way went corporate. They were actual investors and developers building prisons. So my question to you is: how many prisons in the state of Louisiana are actually owned and operated by the state, and how many are private?
All right, I do know that Angola is owned by the state. Dixon, DCI is owned by the state. Elaine Hunt is owned by the state. WCI in Washington Parish is owned by the state. Avoyelles is owned by the state. Now, Angola is the only maximum security prison in Louisiana. The rest of them are medium, and there again, certain nights we would describe and further explain what's the difference between a max and a mid max, and more like a trusty camp or a satellite camp. Now there are places called like Whacking Hut, which is a private security company where say me and you, you a guy that's got a good bit of money and you want to blow it, and I'm a guy that's been a correctional officer, so we're going to build us a jail and we're going to house people. There's a lot of those coming up. The problem with those is they want to be the National Guard to the real army and they can't. You're taking a lot of guys that are unexperienced. You're taking a lot of guys off the street who's going to be working $8, $9 an hour. They're not going to be professional. They're not going to have the knowledge to be professional. They're not going to have the training that the state has. The state goes through about a month worth of training before you even get to see, before you even eye to eye with an inmate. And I say inmate because there are offenders walking around you, but you've got offenders, you've got inmates, you've got convicts, you've got different levels of an inmate, and it has to do with their mind, their headset. You can have 3 inmates. Yeah. Well, no, not really their classification, their headset, because you can have 3 inmates on doing life. exact same amount of time. What determines the inmate and the convict is the convict has come to terms with, I'm going to be here because of something I did. Nobody put me here. His mental state. He has accepted one, he's been tried, he's been convicted, game over. Two, it's nobody's fault but his own, and he accepts what's coming. That is a convict. He's not there to mess over the rules. He's not there to play the games. He's not there to play the politics of being an inmate. He's there to do what he's told until his heart stops.
So you're basically saying your short term are the bad boys.
Not necessarily, again, because you can have three guys, all three with the same amount of time, and that one guy who still feels society failed him, who still feels he was wrongly convicted, who hasn't come to the accept that I'm never leaving here. That's an inmate. He acts like an inmate. He still tries to do the things that the inmates do to play inmate politics, or if he don't like you, he'll write you up. He'll say you wrongly done him something, or he'll try to get you moved off his unit, or if he don't like another inmate, he'll go to a free man, which is considered a correctional officer, and say that inmate's threatening me to have that inmate moved. It's a mindset. They can have the same amount of time. So it's not necessarily the short timers who give you the most trouble versus you can have a guy that's got 10 years. If he gets there and he realizes, man, I got 10 years to do, I ain't here to mess with nobody. I just want to do my time. He could be a convict. And he'll be treated as such by the free person because you're not there to cause me no trouble. I ain't there to cause you no trouble.
Now, I got another question for you because this is, I mean, I know it's probably things you don't like to talk about.
No, it's an open forum. I would talk about the uncomfortable and the very comfortable.
But the reason I bring it up is because this is what people like to hear about,
yeah.
Number one, and you know that. But number two, this is just proof of a failed system anyway. But I would like you, because I think this interview with you is going to probably go 2 episodes at least.
Okay.
Getting to who Roger Watson is. A lot of people on my channel don't even realize.
Bring me a block, please.
Book author, and he's got books about his life and his journey and the things he's done, and I think it's very interesting. And I've read a great deal into some of it already. But let's talk about one of the worst times in your what's some of the things you've seen inside that life?
I had just come off of being a cadet. You do 6 months as a cadet. I was probably a sergeant, and I probably wasn't a sergeant, but probably another 6 months. So I probably had maybe a year into it. One of the hardest things I ever had to do was deal with a handicapped gentleman, baby. Was deal with a handicapped gentleman. He was in the cell block. He had just got there from ARDC, which means ARDC, he just come from Hunts. Anytime you get locked up in Louisiana, you got to go to one prison first. You stay there for a period of time for them to figure out what your classification is going to be. Are you a threat? Are you a threat to security? Are you a threat to other people? Are you a threat to yourself? Well, he come to DCI. DCI is a minimum security prison. It's one where your non-child support people go, your DWIs go, I wrote some bad checks, now I got to go to jail for it. You're not really your rapists, your murderers, not your hardcore people. They're bad people because of society, but they're not like a hard threat. They just go there 5-10 years and then they're out. But I was in the cell block, and my physique at the time, broad shoulders, I didn't have a lot of fat, so I was in shape. So I was a candidate for the cell block. I was in there, and this white gentleman come in, handcuffed up. All he could say was, "Hey, somebody listen to me. Somebody listen to me. I didn't do it. I didn't do what that girl said I did. I didn't do it." And you can tell he wasn't all there. Well, the captain that was over the unit was moving a lot of offenders in and out. because we were accepting our ARDC inmates, meaning the prison was taking the ones that were on level 1, moving them to population, and we were getting a new batch in. So he kept telling me, shut that inmate up, shut that inmate up. And the way he was telling me was, hey man, physically shut that inmate up if you have to, stop him from running his mouth. And I took that as, oh my God, bro, you want me to put my hands on this guy who's telling me, listen to him. Why don't somebody listen to him? He's obviously not in his right mind. Why don't somebody listen to him? I mean, right then, the link of security was getting weak at that point, and I didn't understand what was going on, and it really got to me. That experience went on. I literally had to physically hold him against the wall and force him to shut up because I had to do what I was told. It was ripping my heart apart, but I had to do what I was told. Now, once it got dealt with, once it got taken care of, and he got put where he was supposed to, the captain come back and pulled me off to the side. He said, now I have the time to explain to you what you didn't see. He said, what you seen was what the public sees. Because at that point, I was still public. I wasn't in that long enough to know what I was looking at. I felt like I was still, I still had I put my heart in my uniform. And which is a good thing that you do that. You just have to know the consequences of putting that uniform on. And when he explained to me when I told him what I seen was, I seen a handicapped guy trying to get his point out, and nobody was listening to him. And the captain said, all right, let me explain something to you. That dude just did a year at a parish jail. He just went through psychological evaluations, numerous stacks and stacks and stacks of people who heard what he had to say. He went through a court system where people heard what he had to say. He went to a prison where a psychologist heard what he had to say. And I was feeling like nobody was listening to this guy because I was the one with the inexperience. He seen the weakness in me and he played on. Now, whether he was as guilty as the court said he was or not, that was a part of my training that I needed to learn. It's not my job to determine if you're supposed to be there or not. That's between God and the judge who put you here. And I needed to separate myself from that. Because what I didn't see was, as long as he was in a rant, his blood pressure was going up. As long as his blood pressure was going up, if he would have scratched himself or if he would have nicked himself, it would have been a massive bloodbath right there, and it would have looked horrible in the media and the other inmates that were seeing that. It would have been horrible, and it would have been worse than it really was. So keeping him calm was actually doing him some good. Now, you got other inmates that are coming through there that are seeing this. All it takes is for somebody to see him as a distraction and jump security.
Right.
You are in a position where you are moving people like cattle, and it has to be moved. If you know anything about moving cattle, it has to be swift, fast, and accurate so nobody gets hurt.
Right.
And when you're
that could have hurt the other inmates could have.
They could have, because all they had to do was say, man, why y'all not listening to that guy? Why y'all not listening to that guy? That would have raised tension, stress. That would have raised everybody's awareness, the inmates could have raised the level of security up and they're not really done anything.
Let me ask you another question.
Okay.
I don't know if you're allowed to answer this, but
no. If I can't, I just won't name names.
People are really wondering. People put additives in the food
called saltpeter. It's called saltpeter. I cannot officially say or deny, but if there was a thing called saltpeter, they accuse the military of having the same thing. It prevents erection, so it minimizes the sexual tension between offenders. But I will tell you,
saying it does or doesn't,
but if it did, the purpose of it would be, but if it did, the purpose of it would be to minimize erections to manage sexual stimulation among male offenders. But I will tell you this: this is something that the room may like, and we will have to touch back on this.
okay.
Pornography is illegal in the male or female prisons now. They used to be called shop books. They were naked magazines.
Right.
They are banned from the prison system now because of a uh, child sex toucher, a guy that was arrested for messing with children. He had some pictures of naked children on his locker box in Louisiana. The prison raised hell about it. He sued the state and won because of his sexual transgressions were not permitted as if a heterosexual's transition was. Their sexual desires were naked women. They were given the allowance in their locker rooms, in their dorms, in their areas, allowed to go to the bathroom, relieve themselves, do what they had to do. That was accepted. But for him and the way the system won, and to stop him from being allowed to have naked children splattered all over the area, was just do away with pornography altogether.
Oh, okay. That's crazy.
So yes, just so that a pedophile,
Obviously, the
yep,
having the kids part of it, but
just so
play around because that is something I think about people that are incarcerated because it's like that's our human like carnal desire as a human being
you,
to procreate to
you were mentioning.
you know
I don't want to get off topic, but you were mentioning in your other show you were doing that if people hanging on to every bit of humanity that they've got, if we went into a global disaster and you were stripped from that it will dehumanize you. And being incarcerated and being able to go and relieve yourself is a form of human escape that you identify with. And if you have nothing but your imagination, then to be honest with you, the rate, and I know the question is going to come up, have I ever seen male on male or male on horse or horse on male or anything like that? And I'll address them to those topics, but you would think that if you wanted to prevent the rape or the touching of inmates, you would allow that pornography as a window to say if you're gonna do it in discretion and do it over there. Not that you're okaying it, but it's apples and oranges. What do you want? You want to take an inmate to the emergency room for being raped, or you want to let this guy go over there and relieve himself? But to me, ripping it out altogether would cause the guy to go, look, man, I'm tired of this imagination shit. I'm about to go with the real thing. And it did. It does do that. But is there sex in prisons? All the time. All the time. You hear a lot of these women that go to work there. I was raped. I was raped. I was raped. The cases that are real, I'm not speaking on those cases. But there's a lot of cases where it's not real. The woman went there. She fell into a relationship. She got what handed to her, and excuse me, and then she want to play the rape card.
right.
Going to work in a place like that is no place to find a mate. Whether you're a male looking for a male, a female looking for a male, or a male going to work in a woman's prison looking for a female, that is not where you go to find your significant other.
Right. Well, the thing I wanted to ask you though, it's kind of tonight was like the introduction because we were just breaking it out and stuff. Because I know I want to get into. A couple people said we didn't know he was an author. Yeah, he's got 5 published books.
Yes.
He's had a rough life. He was in, corrections, being into this stuff. And we kind of talked about it one time. That's why he kind of turned to being a goofy guy, because you want to get to living life again. You don't want to be.
Oh man.
I'm sure it made you a bit cynical, like it fried up your emotions towards love and relationships because
my family would tell me all the time, why don't you bring your work home with you? Why don't you bring your work home with you? You go to work there, whether it's 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, or you go to work there shift work, you're spending half your life there. Angola is 18,000 acres. If you got roll call at 6 o'clock, you got to be there at right at 5 o'clock. You got to drive through the gate, drive to where you're gonna go. You work in 12 hours. That's not 12 hours from the time you get on the you get on the property and then you get there and then you clock in. No, it's 12 o'clock from roll call to the time you get a relief. So all of that time that you doing, driving to work there, driving through the gate, driving over to where you're at, that's on you, boo boo. So you're in that lifestyle. You're in that lifestyle and in that mindset a lot longer than you are in your regular life.
Right. You're pretty much doing prison time with them.
You are because your friends become your coworkers. They're the only ones who can understand you. They're the only ones you can function with. You go to.
What did it take you after working there to basically get into what you would call normal like lifestyle, like normal
when my heart
with people?
When my heart, I'm 48 right now. When my heart gave out at 39, and I was told I would no longer work again, I got on social media probably 5 months ago. So it took me till I would say I was 47 to level off. I just recently leveled off.
So you had a lot of pent up like.
I couldn't go to bed with the light off for about the first year of me being away from it. Just because when there was activity going around on, my body had all of them days built up that needed to come out, and everything needed to come out. Diagnosed with PTSD, diagnosed with depression. I worked suicide watch. I worked with the mental health. I worked with the bad of the bad, the evil of the evil, and just being around the death, the misery, just the corruption, not among the employees, but from the inmate corruption. Always running scams, not knowing. You go to work going, I ain't gonna be able to believe a damn thing something that you say. When you automatically have that wall up that the words coming out your mouth is a lie, it's hard to trust anybody. It's hard to trust the members of your family or people that you deal with because if it's like them pegs, you put all the pegs in a bowl, you shake it, and those that fall in the hole shouldn't fit in the hole. Well, if you fit in that hole, then you're gonna be, you charged like that, and that's not true. Somebody may have the kick. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just got one more question because, like I said, I think there's just so much we can't even cover it. So I want to pick up again because I want to eventually get it to the point where you decided you wanted to become an author, like 2 or 3 down the road. But
yep.
Obviously, the last question. The last question for this show, but
yeah.
You hear a lot of people, but in most states, the biggest state prison, the high max, is the one that does the executions. So obviously my question, did you ever find yourself working on death row?
I worked death row a lot. I worked at Angola. Angola is where they did the execution. If you go back and watch Monsters Ball, that execution room, I've been on that unit. I worked that unit. I worked with the same situations that all of that. Monsters Ball. I was at work the day they filmed Monsters Ball, and in a particular situation where he's in the car leaving the farm, and he makes a left-hand turn, and there's a trailer and a truck. We call it the Hootenanny. It's got all the inmates because their dorm area and where they work is so far away. By the time they walked it, you wouldn't have time to work, so we had to get the horses, bring them over there, and then haul them by trailer to where they had to work at for the day. Well, when he seen that, he turned. He should have took a right and he took a left. When he took a left, we're on some horses, and a crowd and some of the camera crew caught the horses by mistake, were the ones we were on. But yeah, I worked death row. I worked Camp F with the trustees. I worked Camp A, main prison. I worked Camp J. I lived on Angola for a long time.
Like for the last point of tonight's show, though, what was it like? Because I remember I've watched Monsters Ball. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
Billy Bob Thornton and yeah.
Now the fact that that boy shot himself, real employees have experienced that, where the guy felt he didn't measure up in his daddy's eyes, and it almost shows you how the loyalty to the job is, and sometimes you got a love for the job more than you do your own family. Billy Bob Thornton lost that he lost that vision of what he was as an officer and what he was as a human being. And kind of toward the end of it, when he seen his son get killed, he started spending a lot of time with the lady and he got away. It's kind of where I felt myself being at, where I was like, I'm not in that life anymore. I'm in this life. And it was a transition. And he did it accurate, very accurate.
Well, my thing was is like just like that movie, just like The Green Mile. I know that's a little bit faster, but working on death row and walking by all those people and you know they're condemned to death, how does that impact you as a human being with a heart? You know, like how's that work?
My dad worked there, and family before him worked there. When I went to put my uniform on the very first time, my dad came to my house and he said, "Lay your uniform out." Said, "Identify the pieces." He said, "Look at it as a puzzle. You put it on one way and you take it off in reverse of it." And he asked me, "Where's your beeper or your radio or your keys or all of that? You know, you keep it where you can get to it the most. Where's the badge?" It was the last thing he asked me. And I said, "It's over my heart." He said, "That's right. It's put there for a reason. Your badge covers your heart. It does not cover your ass. If you go out there and you do that job and you do something that you get yourself in trouble, just because you got that badge on, it's not going to cover your ass if you do something wrong, if you do something illegal, or if you misabuse your authority. That badge is not to show them inmates anything. That uniform shows them. That badge is to remind you of the loyalty and the oath you took to do the job.
So basically, what you're saying is you still have, obviously deep down inside, you have a human emotion, but you don't react on it.
You cannot. If you do, you're dead. And when I say that drastic, the moment you move on it, you're already dead. You're a walking dead man. You're either dead because you're going to make foolish mistakes throughout your career. You're either dead because the correction officer you would have been don't have a chance to live. If you bring, that's where I get the true definition of empathy and sympathy. Empathy is the sadness and the feeling and the emotion that you feel but don't react on. Sympathy is the exact same feeling that you show emotion on. The moment you show sympathy, you are a target, and nothing in prison is ever as it seems. If an inmate comes to you with a bad story, it's not as it seems. It's something in that that you need to get to the bottom of. If an inmate comes to you and says, somebody's after me, I need you to lock me up for my protection. You have to do that. You have to take that offender, you have to put him in PC for 72 hours. You don't know, and he don't have to tell you, did he just make a bet he couldn't pay for? If that's so, he's using you to protect him. Is he running from something? Did he just hurt something? or does he just don't want to go to work for the weekend? You know, it's inmates are constantly running scams. Now, if they didn't do that, then there'd be a different breed of correction officer. You wouldn't have that guy that was always trying to get to the bottom of it. You wouldn't have that hard ass guy who dug more into things. You wouldn't have that over aggressive. You would have that sympathy guy. You want to be locked up, buddy? All right, come on, man. Let's go hook you up. Let's go get yourself taken care of. Because that is a get me the hell out of here free card that the inmates misabuse. When they come to you privately and say, "Hey, man, there's something going on. You need to get me the hell up out of here." That's something that they should be entitled to. And that's not the place to tell you, "Hey, man, this guy's threatening to rape me, and I don't want to look like a punk, you know. Get me out of here. Let me go talk to a major or a warden or somebody." They should have that privilege. But when they abuse it, then they get a guy like me who goes, "I've been done this with you 3 times, and all 3 times I did it." The captain gets on to me because he had you working this weekend, and I'm the one keep locking you up. You know, now when he comes to me and he wants something serious, I'm gonna ignore him. And then something bad's gonna happen, and then there I gotta go answer in front of the attorney general. So it's it's a give and take. You know, it takes the inmate and the correction officer to make the system work, and it's broken.
Well, I think this was a great first one. I think we had this just opened like a bunch of bags to ask about in the net. I mean, I could go on for this because this is something that I hear a lot of misinformation about. You heard it in one of my episodes already when I was talking
Yes.
about my son. Everybody, oh, they get this much money every year to have an inmate. They do that. There's all kinds of shit like that.
Yeah, and
You to come on,
and I will say this:
importantly,
the parish jails, you can do DOC time at a parish jail, and they do get more money. If I'm a sheriff and I've got 100 beds, and I can get 10 Cubans versus 10 white guys, the Cubans bring in more money. If I can get 10 Cubans, 10 Mexicans, 10 white guys, that pays more than 100 black guys. It does. It does. And if I say, okay, send me 3 people doing deals.
The prison system is like racially charged to a degree.
Well, it ain't racially charged. It's done by which inmates are take more security to house. The traffic of black
basically.
Yeah, the traffic of black offenders is so repetitive. Keeping a black guy locked up is not that high risk. A white guy is more susceptible to not do his time and escape, and he's more susceptible to get help if he gets out. He'll clean up quicker, he'll blend in quicker. So you really want to keep your eyes on that. Now, it takes more money to house a Cuban because you got to accommodate their eating habits. You got to be able to have someone there that can speak it if they don't speak English. Uh, if you have somebody there that has special needs, if they only speak a certain language, you got to have somebody on staff that speaks that language. Um, if you got somebody doing DOC time and you want to house them, sure they're gonna be like, "Bro, I'm getting credit for being at the big house, and I get to sit back at this parish jail in the same town with my family, bro. This is great." So what they'll do is they'll make him an orderly, or he'll work for the warden and he'll stay there. But he's also a DOC inmate. If that dude gets out, you're gonna have a lot of serious people wanting him caught. So you got to have higher trained officers to work with him. So if in other words, the amount of money a person brings a jail is the amount of attention they need to watch over them.
So then, number one, the first biggest misconception is there's just a set rate that every
No.
jail gets for each inmate.
No,
So
that's not true. That's a misconception.
That
That is bullshit.
It's $46,000 per inmate every year to feed them or something.
Now, don't let me speak out of both sides of my tongue. They may throw that out and say, in a general, we need $30,000 a year to run this prison.
Well, that's a budget.
That's a budget. That's right.
Right.
But don't let that get caught up with saying every offender, no matter who they are, brings in $12 a day. That's bullshit. That's hogwash.
That was kind of like a lot of people took that as the incentive to lock people up.
Nope.
Whereas
Nope.
what I'm hearing
To be honest with you,
is the last stop for people, the scourge of society. It's the people that can't conform to normal everyday society.
To be honest,
designed for rehabilitation.
to be honest with you, if you really wanted to look at it and say politicians are locking black dudes up, and it's more, a black dude is actually the one that don't benefit the prison system at all. That they are the ones that are the lower commodity, and to be honest with you, they are the ones that are on top of the food chain in the prison. And on the street, they want to go, okay, well, this is a white man's world. Well, in the prison system, the difference between the inmate and the convict, their convict's pants are pulled up. There's no belching in the cafeteria where you're eating. If you belch and you don't have your mouth covered up, or if you walk by someone eating and you pass gas, or you do something disrespectful, or if you're walking so hard that dust comes up from the floor, they will beat you down. That's disrespectful. They live under a higher code where they enforce their own rules, where it's like, dude, if you can live under these strict rules here, why you can't live in society like that? And when I
Society doesn't have that structure.
well, it's not that.
It's not given to them.
Well, no, it's not so much that. How it's been worded to me over the years is society is written by white man's rules, not necessarily by a white man, even if it's a black politician that follows and supports the white man's rules. The prisons inmates are the prisons designed for black people in their mind. So whether you're white, whether you're black, whether you're anything, that's black rules versus white rules. Now, if you get a white inmate that goes there and he's socially accepted as a black guy, he's socially accepted, as the culture, and that's where you're going to hear me say a lot. We don't have a color problem, we have a culture problem. Because who is the most racist out of a white man, a white woman, a black man, or a black woman? It's going to be black females pushing black men. That's where the most hardcore racism comes from. Who come up with the term an Uncle Tom? A fellow black man. Because if a black man is successful, he's hated on by other black men being called in.
You just hit it. There's that guy, High Frequency Radio, that he's a black lawyer. Awesome guy, intelligent, drives a Dodge Charger S or RT.
Yep.
And there's all kinds of
there's nothing that scares the
tag words, but those groups of the minority.
Yep.
That just hate on him.
Yep.
You're this, that, the other. And
yep. It has nothing to do.
Reach success by working hard for what I got.
Now, you want look at this as a scenario. A society will accept a white guy and a black woman, but do not accept a black guy and a white woman. It's the same color, it's just reversed. The difference is the black woman rises above her color and takes on a new culture. She wants to be successful. She wants to get out of the hood. She wants to move to the suburbs. She wants to better herself. It's a culture that she's embracing. Where versus the white girl gets with the black guy, he makes her what society calls a snow bunny. She gets the dreads. She gets the tattoos. She takes on a different culture. So it's not really the color. And I've been a huge supporter of successful black men in the penitentiary as well as out. I will be the biggest advocate to say Democrats crush the black society when they said, get the man out of the house and we'll be your mom and daddy. We'll be your father. We'll be your breadwinner. Nothing scares the government more than a successful black man.
Well, I think that's where we need to pick up next time. And you seeing that with your own eyes at the prison system, starting with the youth,
Yes.
all the way through the adult prison system, the some of them that get released, and seeing how they acted when they were reintegrated into society. That's the next episode I think we should start off on.
And I have had
cultural issues.
I've had inmates that walk up on me, hey Sarge, and that's an eerie feeling when you hear that and you know that sound and you're like, oh man, hey man, how you doing, bro? It's good to see you out here, and you embrace them. But you can also, I sat across from a guy in McDonald's one day. My wife and I was eating, and I was looking over at him, and we made eye contact a couple of times, and we just nodded like we both knew. And when we got ready to get up, I paid for his meal. And he wanted another meal to go, and I paid for that meal. And he said, man, you didn't have to do that. I said, well, me and you share a lifestyle nobody else knows about. He said, yeah, man, you're right. I said, how long you been down? And we talked, and we just talked, and we were using words and codes and slangs. And my wife and the other lady that was sitting there were like, I have no idea what they're talking about, but we just connected on a word. It's kind of like you military men meeting, and neither one of them shared battle with each other, but they had mutual respect because you can just tell the other person had been there. And I see it all the time. It's actually helped me get out of situations where we'll be at a car wash late at night, or getting gas, and somebody have an argument, the shit get heated, and then it blend me in for some reason. And then somebody look and go, hold up, bro. That dude's solid, bro. No, man, let's just back off. And you just salute that you have where they know you've either been involved in something or you've been deep enough to see something. And they say, when you look into someone's eyes, it's the window to their soul. I'm a religious man, but I got a very, very dark tunnel. I've been through and seen stuff that you look into my eyes, you're welcome to share my nightmares, but hey man, I got a great respect for people with PTSD. Because if you ever had a job where you go home and you still think you're running equipment, or you still think there's something going on, I still hear keys jingling in the night. I still hear doors slamming.
Right.
But yeah, man, I don't want to carry you longer than we have to be.
Well, no, I just was saying I appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to at least a couple more, because I think there's a lot of things that you could shed some light, like shine the light on. And it is an important topic for me because a lot of us, I know there's a lot of political stuff going on, but a lot of us deal with this in our personal lives. And I think at the end of this, you guys will be amazed how I tie this into the societal problem that leads to political issues. Our society is not just corrupt and a cultural problem. Every one of these people votes. And, this starts at our kids in high school. It starts in the educational system. And whoever doesn't cut the mustard in the educational system, guess where they end up? They end up next to people like Roger Watson. And so I do, if you don't mind, I know there's personal facets to your story. I know that your books you've written, you just say whatever you feel like coming out with.
I understand.
I think there's a hell of a message to come from you to the people. Also, feel free to let your audience, they're allowed to come over here and watch the video. You're allowed to use it on yours if you want to.
All right.
This is kind of like your segment just as much as it is mine. So,
yes, sir.
But I appreciate your time. I really do. I look forward to next Saturday. We'll pick up.
And if you get requests for in the week during the week show, hey man, if somebody has worked with me at a certain prison, or if they want to ask about a prison in their area, or if they got somebody and say, hey man, what's the difference between a call out and this? My son is worried. Hey, if we end up having to do something during the week, just let me know. We'll fit it in our schedule. And you know, and I'd like to warn people. You see these inmates on TikTok that have these phones and they have these social media. They're at these parish jails. Those are not state facilities. Those are parish jails. Just because they're parish does not take away from the fact that do not humor these people. They are not your friends. They've got these phones in illegally, either because they've smuggled them in, or they got crooked officers working there, or somebody's there. Y'all sending these people money. They're doing stuff. TikTok is not cracking down on them. Somebody is gonna get their throat cut. Is gonna get beat down behind these phones, or somebody's gonna have a fight. Somebody's seriously gonna get hurt before they fix this problem.
Well, like I said, I can't wait till next Saturday because I know there's a ton of stuff for you to unpack, and I could probably just let you go for hours on it. But I appreciate you coming.
Yes, sir.
I think this is good for people to hear, and we'll pick up next Saturday, 10 p.m. We might be a little early. Like I said, at this point, it doesn't really matter, but it'll usually be between 9 or 10 p.m. But 10 p.m. And Roger Watson's got a hell of a story to tell too, and I wanted to get it out to people. And just like anything else, take away the misinformation in it. And it's close to home for me because my son spent so much time in the justice system. But Roger, I appreciate it, man. I know you got your your grandson there. I know you. So anyway, everybody, I'm gonna go ahead and call this. I'm gonna go back. I'll put that down so I don't forget. I'm gonna call this down because there's no way that I can do this for Roger. And, you know, and one episode. There we go. So I just edit it back to but that's pretty much it for tonight's episode. Good show. He's going to be the co-host over there anyway. But wait. Yes, Roger, that's awesome, man. I appreciate you coming up. I really do. But anyhow, we're going to continue on this for at least another episode. Back into the more fun thing. But the reason I wanted to do this is I wanted you guys to get a picture of who Roger is. A lot of people, like, you know, they what is that?
Oh, that's right.
The TikToker. They think they made fun of the Island Boys one time and went viral, which he did. But